Bruce Wolf and Dan Proft. Ron Capps was an Afghanistan combat vet. Afghanistan, one of several areas that he served our country. He was in the Army and Army Reserves for 25 years, awarded the Bronze Star twice. He was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder when in 2002, but it would take 10 years before he was deemed disabled. It got to the point where he was about to kill himself when, fortunately, he got a call from his wife. And we are joined right now by Ron Capps, who has written his memoir, Seriously Not All Right, 5 Wars in 10 Years. Thanks for coming in this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
How did it get to the point where you were ready to kill yourself?
Well, I went from Rwanda to Kosovo to Afghanistan to Iraq and then to Darfur, all over a period of about 10 years. And in between those combat tours, or in between that experience in a genocide, in ethnic cleansing and war crimes, I didn't take care of myself. I didn't seek and receive the medical treatment that I really needed. And so I just kept going back from war to war. And at the end of 10 years, I was done. I was ready to kill myself.
And the medical treatment, you mean just because of the horrors that you saw during your service?
Yeah, I think so. It really is something that, for me, the inability to stop the fighting, the inability to protect civilians, the inability really to keep two warring factions from destroying their own country, which was, in many cases, what we were tasked to do. That inability to protect the civilians, I think, really got to me. And I didn't take good care of myself. I didn't get the medical care I needed.
Did you see carnage? Did you kill anybody? Were you shot at? I mean, how did, because people are mystified a little bit as to this phenomenon.
I think so. On the mystification question, yeah, right. I think so. For me, what happened is it's a cumulative effect of being in the midst of war crimes, investigating war crimes, being in the midst of ethnic cleansing, being around 2 genocides. You know, when I got to Darfur, there were 200,000 people dead. I was there for 9 months, and during that period of time, my first tour there, 9 months, 100,000 more people were killed. There were 2.5 million people displaced. We went in, my team and I went into so many places to investigate the war crime the day after. We were kept out of villages while war crimes were ongoing. So while I was not, hand-to-hand combat, I was involved in violence on a large scale, and very much so on a very intimate, personal scale for 10 years.
Well, so then how did you make your way back from the brink, and your experience, particularly in light of what's happened over the last several weeks, the information that's come out about how the VA operates and how veterans are or are not receiving the care to which they're entitled and deserve and need. Your experience through the VA system, your personal experience, and what lessons your experience provides for what should be done at the VA to help other soldiers.
Well, there's a lot there.
Yeah,
let me just start with, no, it's good. Let me just start. My experience was that once I started getting care, I started getting better. I took the medications. I went to therapy. It was helping me. It wasn't helping me fast enough. So I sat down and started writing about my experiences. I used writing as a way of getting a hold of that trauma. I've got a little sign in my office that says, either you control the memory or the memory controls you. And I used writing, and any of the creative arts can do this. Music, dance, drama, art, writing, any of them can do that. I used writing as a tool to help me. My experience at the VA, if you think about the VA being divided in half, the Veterans Health Administration, the hospitals and the vet centers where people go for medical care, and then the Benefits Administration, the guys that deal with everything from getting your college money to getting your VA loan to the declaration of someone being a disabled veteran. At the VA Medical Center, my experiences were almost all positive. I had one kind of bad experience, but I got the medical care I needed from the VA, and I got it in a pretty timely manner. My experience with the Benefits Administration, not quite as good. It took them, a year precisely to get me from I've made my claim to come in the door and talk to us, and then another 3 or 4 months after the first examination to get the declaration that I was a disabled veteran.
We're talking with Ron Capps. He's written his memoir, Seriously Not All Right, 5 Wars in 10 Years. how did the PTSD manifest itself? I mean, so you saw these signs where you described some days you're kind of all right, and then
Yeah.
other days you're on the brink. So just if you can describe what it is, do you just have these images of all the carnage, or what is it like?
Well, I think it's probably different for every person. For me, what happened was I started having these intrusive images. I was having really graphic, violent nightmares where the dead presented themselves to me. I was seeing the dead in my dreams. And when that expanded to having these images in my head, in my mind's eye, during the day, that's when I knew I was really having trouble. There's a physical manifestation as well of the tightening in the gut, the focusing of the eyes, the shortening of the breath. These are more or less flashbacks to what a fight or flight syndrome is. Your brain tells your body, release cortisol, release adrenaline, focus the eyes, focus the back muscles, tighten everything up, prepare to either fight or fly. And that sort of flashback, I think, is very typical of PTSD episodes. Mine was more sadness and anger, anxiety rather than anger, but I think for a lot of veterans it does play out as anger.
And coming out of it now, full circle, how do you look back on your time in the military now?
Both the formative and the most important events of my life. I would not change anything about my experience, except I would probably take better care of myself. I would get more health care when I needed it. I was very afraid to step up and say, hey, look, guys, I'm having a problem. I was in a unit. I was in an airborne unit in Afghanistan, surrounded by Rangers and paratroopers, and I thought, oh, if I ask for help, they'll see me as being broken, as that I'm the weak link. I didn't want to be the weak link. But when it got to the point where I was concerned that I would be making bad decisions that would put the soldiers who I was sent to Afghanistan to lead, that I would put them in danger, that's when I did get help.
The book is called Seriously Not All Right, and Ron Capps will be at the Pritzker Military Museum and Library at 104 South Michigan tonight at 6 o'clock. For tickets, go to pritzkermilitary.org. Ron Capps, thanks so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.